Teresa's life was tainted by trauma, resentment, and shame, and complicated by a drinking problem that began in her early teenage years. Just 3 weeks before her 20th anniversary, she ended up leaving her husband and 3 children. Over the next 2 years, her drinking spiraled out of control until one night she determined that the only plausible plan was to end her life. But God had a different plan. A plan for healing and restoration. It started with a Christian counselor and included a recovery community, a church family, and her children. God brought them back together, but she soon realized that just moving back together didn't make a home. Their family was severely wounded, seemingly beyond repair. But God had a different plan. As she prepared Easter dinner that year, she had a sick feeling in the pit of her stomach. How would she face the parents of the man she had betrayed, the grandparents of the children she had walked out on? She was not fully sober yet, and their lives were on shaky ground at best. But then there they were, on her front porch, and within minutes her father-in-law was in her kitchen standing right in front of her. He didn't say a word. Instead, he just leaned down and kissed her on the forehead. That death grip that shame had on her was no match for the power of kindness, forgiveness, and grace her father-in-law demonstrated that day. Ever so slowly, the fear of never being fully forgiven or accepted, along with her personal contempt for herself, began to melt away. Her father-in-law's actions spoke louder than a million words. He gave her something she didn't even know she needed, the gift of restorative grace. As she worked to rebuild their home, the love and forgiveness extended to her from her husband and children proved to be yet more of the same restorative grace. Their broken world began slowly to heal, and God was doing a mighty work in all of their lives. She wrote about this as she and her husband were celebrating 40 years of marriage. She was now 18 years sober, and her children had blessed them with 4 grandchildren. Her father-in-law's actions were the catalyst for rebuilding not only her broken world, but also the rebuilding of her family. That's grace. Mercy withholds punishment, but grace restores the offender. Both are closely related. Both give a break to the undeserving. Neither one can be earned. But grace goes beyond simply sparing a person from raw justice. It motivates that person to respond in a commitment to better living. The person who receives mercy is most likely to maintain a low profile, lest the giver of mercy should change his or her mind. But the recipient of grace has no fear of repercussions. For while mercy springs from pity, grace is born of love. Mercy relieves, grace renews. But because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ even when we were dead in transgressions. It is by grace you have been saved. And God raised us up with Christ and seated us with him in the heavenly realms in Christ Jesus, in order that in the coming ages he might show the incomparable riches of his grace, expressed in his kindness to us in Christ Jesus. That is the grace that God has poured out for you and for me, so that we might live by faith. I'm Pastor Jeff Collins, and I want to encourage you to make it a great week.